Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Grind. This is episode 2. We are broadcasting live from the Acopian Engineering Center here at Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania. Please remember, if you have a high school student or someone you know has a high school student looking for a place to go, I'll tell you that Lafayette boasts an unparalleled hands-on engineering experience. The experience we offer here is truly one that will put you ahead of the pack. So if you are looking for that opportunity or that step ahead, I invite you to join us and say Colonel, or translated, why not? As a special treat, if you can see behind me, we are broadcasting from the Lafayette College EV race car garage. So this used to be a lab where the students, as part of a class, would design and build a race car. It has since become a co-curricular project. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. This show is an informal chat about the machine shop and its culture over a cup of coffee. And bringing us to that is today's brew. It comes to us from Black Rifle Coffee Company. It is Spirit of 76. Fun fact, Easton is one of the very few places where the Declaration of Independence was read aloud after it was signed, signaling our separation from Britain. It also has significance in that our namesake, Lafayette, was the general that served under Washington to help us win our independence. So it's a very fitting blend of coffee for such an auspicious place and an auspicious city. I'd like to preface this whole talk today by giving you the point that I have a very, very strong case of the John Browning syndrome, wherein I will rarely ever, or actually almost never, put an idea to paper. I'll just design it in my head and make it. And if I really want it, I have the design in my head, I put it right to metal. John Browning was a very prolific small arms designer of the late 19th and early 20th century, who was known for making the mechanical wonders, but never having a blueprint to work from. It was all in his head. He was an absolute genius. It was only after his passing that all of his designs were put to paper. The nature of my work now, though, necessitates that I use CAD and CAM to get my job done. Hence, the reason for today's episode. Today we're going to focus on two pieces of design software that have the debate as old as time. Same as the Chevrolet versus Ford debate. And we know who's right in that one. So, in these hallowed halls, I hear the one debate of SolidWorks is better than AutoDesk, and I hear the opposite as well. My question for the listeners today is, what camp are you in? What one do you use? What one do you prefer? What are the pros and cons of each? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. Remember, I can be found on LinkedIn. Please share. Please reach out. I personally am in the Autodesk camp, as it was always given to me. So if it's free, it's for me, right? And it's the only one I've ever used outside of when I was in my formative years and working for my father. We used an old program called DesignCAD. Very clunky, it did basic things. It's all we really needed of it. And I'm sure it's updated now. There's a new version, I'm sure. But AutoCAD, when I started using that, was the way to go, it seemed. The command structure is what sold me. If I needed a circle somewhere, type the letter C, give it the center spot and the radius or diameter. If I needed a line, type the letter L, give it the start and finish. I can go on and on, but you can see just how simple AutoCAD is to use. I was also taught to program and run CNC mills in the 2.5 dimension frame of mind, excuse me. So we would use a 2-dimensional drawing and just change our z-axis or z-moves and get a 3-dimensional part. Surfacing was in the old CAM software that we had here before we switched to Fusion. It was Gibbs CAM. Huge shout out to Gibbs CAM for giving us a CDU program. It served me very well for years. But the surfacing functions rarely got used, and because it would be a long time between uses, it was a skill that had to be relearned all the time. Now, Gibbs also had a very steep learning curve when it came to the surfacing features. Again, with intermittent use, it rarely got used. Enter Autodesk Fusion. This was a single program or a single piece of software that did it all. You could go from your first sketch, through your modeling, through your drawings, and right into CAM. It had its own CAM on board that has seats for just about every machine's post-processor available. So it was a natural step forward for us. During the COVID lockdowns, we were instructed to take our laptops home, learn how to use Fusion, so when we came back, at the time it was if, when we came back, we would be able to take student parts or designs and either assist them or write the CAM ourselves, write the toolpath ourselves. Full disclosure, I had a very heavy diet of cheese. I would import a 2D DXF and extrude the parts as necessary. So I never really had to draw up what I desired in Fusion. I could just steal it from AutoCAD. I've started recently scratching the surface of drawing from scratch in Fusion, and it seems to be working pretty well. If it's something I need kind of pronto, I still do it in AutoCAD and import it. It just seems faster. Now, again, I mentioned it has its own CAM right in the same piece of software, so you don't even have to close out of CAD and open up a middleman piece of software like Gibbs, like I mentioned, or Mastercam if you use it, to make the toolpaths. This had the ability to import the machine, a model of it, your fixturing, your stock size, and tools, and it would crank out CAM in seconds. All you had to do was give it some basic parameters like speeds and feeds. So you can also, in our case, use Fusion to get your first draft, sketch, your model, your CAM, and send it to the machine right from this laptop that I'm using now. It's very, very nice. So in this case, it would be a slight edge to AutoDesk in the debate here, it would seem. It's the only one I can speak to, so as unfair of an edge as it may be, that's where we stand. In the interest of fairness, I reached out to sales reps from both companies, AutoDesk, SolidWorks. I asked to have a callback and have the salesman sell me on why their product is better than the other guy. And it seems that after multiple callback requests from SolidWorks and a very nicely worded email telling me no from Autodesk that they didn't have time for me, it came down to having to do my own investigative journalism. So I will take a moment to say this to the companies, both of them. Please stop blowing off your paying customers. Just wishing to speak to a human to get an answer, it goes a very long way. And I'm going to be honest with you. The few minutes you would have spent with me on the phone just to sell your product or give me the information would have paid off in dividends. I'm getting your name out there essentially for free. And the sales you may have reaped in will more than outweigh the time you spent with me. So I hope this message changes that and I get a couple of calls back. Now, with nothing but lost time on my hands, I decided to hit the bricks myself and do some investigative journalism. The proverbial fire hose that I drank from when it came to information was astounding. It was outstanding. Turns out when you ask people that use the products what they really think and what they really want, you'll get exactly what you're looking for. And going into it with an objective, I don't want to say non-biased, but I guess you could say that, an unbiased view of each program. I wanted to know what people thought and what people think could have been improved. And I cannot thank all of my contributors enough. I began speaking with an alumni of the mechanical engineering program, a Mr. Taylor Alger of 2018. He gave me a quite in-depth insight into how the products compare to one another. He said after using both of them, they're very similar. SolidWorks is a lot less clunky and it requires a lot less updates. It's less buggy. And I'd have to say that's an edge for SolidWorks. Spoke with Mr. Jack Ewing, 2028. This guy's a double major of ECE, or electrical computer engineering, and a minor in mechanical engineering. Talk about putting in the work. Judas Priest on a pony, this kid tortures himself by going the extra mile. So anybody looking for somebody that really goes the extra mile, look out for Jack Ewing. He'll be graduating in 2028. Anyway, this guy tells me that while in high school on his robotics team, he used SolidWorks a lot. He's not as familiar with Fusion until he came here, but he finds them extremely similar. SolidWorks has more features and is better suited for complicated designs. That said, the lack of cloud sharing means that if you're working with multiple people, you have to have a way to share your files, whether it be thumb drive or solid Ethernet connection on a network. Thank you, Jack. So that looks to me, that's an Edge SolidWorks, so it looks like it's 1-in-1, or maybe actually 2-in-1 SolidWorks. Mr. Michael Herbster, 2029, also mechanical engineering, tells me SolidWorks is simpler with a cleaner interface and overall easier to navigate. This makes the user, or the designer in this case, much more efficient. I also find the user interface to be much more effective for the way he thinks about designing something. He cannot yet speak on if the finite element analyses or computational fluid dynamics features work very well, as he doesn't have access to those on his personal use license. With that, again, Edge SolidWorks. Now, if you look behind me, I'm actually leaning on the race car. So this is, we call this the Frankenstein car. This is a 4 or 5 year old design now of fully electric EV competition. Now, over the years, they've taken this thing apart, cut off pieces, put new pieces on to get what they want, and they're still hammering that part out now. But I have to hand it to this team. I think they have an idea of where they want to go. I spoke with the current team captain of this car, Bram Halpert of 2027, also mechanical engineering. He tells me that while Autodesk, specifically Fusion, has a nice and clean interface and is capable of doing a large majority of design work, or CAD design work, he prefers SolidWorks for its clearer structure of parts versus assemblies. It also possesses more capabilities and is less finicky. Now, this is a side note from me. I've also found that Autodesk requires a lot of constant updates, almost like they're in cahoots with Windows or something. Just saying. So, another Edge SolidWorks. Mr. Ian Horch, 2027, integrated engineering with a, what's the word I'm looking for? A specification or specialization in robotics. He tells me he'd be a fan of Lafayette switching to SolidWorks. While you need its own proprietary native file sharing system, and while SolidWorks does everything locally, it has a very strong check-in program that prevents people from inadvertently overwriting other people's works. It also contains much more voluminous amounts of material properties, like your metal properties, whatever you have, notes, and better revision management. Fusion's assembly system is much more inferior in his opinion. I have to agree. I found that Autodesk or Fusion's assembly process is very rigid in that you have to tie parts to one another in an assembly. You can't freely have things floating around in space. You must tie them to one another. So again, SolidWorks gets the edge again. Now, I did some investigative journalism outside of Lafayette, to be fair. I placed a call to a company that my father works with, Right Cut EDM out of Southport, New York, and spoke with Dominic Wright, who handles most of their digital design work, all of their digital files, their CAM. He is the person they go to. He tells me that the older legacy dies that we cut are all in an older version of AutoCAD, and it's just easier to keep them there instead of migrating them to a new program where they might not work. Let's see, what else did he say? Since they exist already in the older version of AutoCAD, they have no need to migrate them, like I said, and they also don't plan on purchasing any more Autodesk software. They use strictly SolidWorks for their assemblies of all recent parts. They do the 3D modeling in SolidWorks, and their assemblies are just much better, he says. SolidWorks just does it better from his experience. It's much less glitchy, seamlessly transitions to all 3D models to and from their chosen CAM program. So Right Cut uses MasterCam, which I learned on in college. It's a fantastic program. Very easy to pick up, I found, and it's great for all types of machines. He tells us that all die assemblies are in SolidWorks, and it's the one we've chosen to use. he has found that he can send the 3D model to Mastercam, do all of the toolpaths, and if something were to change, he can export it back to SolidWorks without corruption of the file, and then back in, and the Mastercam will automatically update to the changes. So I am going to put the contact information for Right Cut EDM in the video description. So if you need any kind of EDM work, these are the people to go to. I'd like to give a special thank you out to Dominic for taking time out of his busy day to speak with me for those few minutes. I realize time is money, and you've given all of us some very invaluable information, and you've been helpful to us all. So Dominic, thank you very much for your time. The next interview I did is particularly interesting for a short reason, a list of reasons. Well, first, it's my brother, who is a highly skilled mechanical designer and mechanical engineer, recently promoted to the manager of the department. Nice work, Brian. At the stage builder on the world stage, 8 Towers in Lidditz, PA. Secondly, he's the one person who was able to give me an unfiltered, almost surgical dissection of the Autodesk suite. And he pointed out that Autodesk's latest habit is to simply buy out a company and acquire all of its software without integrating it into Autodesk's proprietary native language. For example, Autodesk has about a half dozen individual modeling programs, and none of them will natively talk to each other. They don't speak to each other. They crank out different file types that are incompatible with another program. To give you an example, when I pressed him for more information, the floodgates opened. He tells me that most big projects that he works on need to be coordinated into a building information management software, or BIM software. And the one that they have the most experience with is BIM 360, ironically also an Autodesk program. This natively works off of Revit files, if I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, Revit. So to work in this, he needs to pull the info from the cloud, or Autodesk is cloud sharing, so he has to pull the information down from the cloud into Revit, export it as an STP or drawing file to work with AutoCAD. Then he has Inventor, which uses ASM file extension, or Inventor part, IPT part files. They can't be read by AutoCAD either. When they want to upload it back up into the cloud for other people to work on, he would need to either import the work back into Revit, post-process it so it's useful in the BIM 360 program for upload, or if he's in Inventor, he would need to use a plugin to make it even able to export over to Revit again. There's currently no way to seamlessly work between the 3 separate programs that he needs without some sort of middleman export-import plugin. This also strips metadata and makes the 3D model very dumb, his words. Then you have the entirely new can of worms that is the Z-up argument, which is another argument for another day. Now, while he didn't openly advocate for SolidWorks, and he uses Autodesk in his professional capability or capacity, it seems like a bit of a bittersweet win for Autodesk. So that looks like 2 Autodesk, and the way it currently stands, it's Autodesk 2, SolidWorks 6. From all of my research, it's looking like SolidWorks is taking the cake. It looks to me like industry is shifting that way for their standard. Now, I guess getting the software that I've been using for free kind of tipped my hand. Since it's the only one I've used, it's the only one I can speak to. Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. I want to thank all of you for watching and listening. Tune in next week, same time and same place, where we will be discussing the ideas surrounding the education and creation of future generations of all engineers. In a bit of an homage to the first episode, I received quite a bit of feedback with a phenomenal point suggesting that those that we choose to hire and teach the future generations should, this is the feedback I'm getting, they should be from a background of actually having machine time making the parts for their research. So they come from a place of knowing that they've actually built something they designed, whether it worked or not. And that as a prerequisite for being hired to teach next generations of engineers. So it is not only theoretical, that they can speak from experience of actually having built something from nothing or something from a design. Now, 2 special treats. If you look behind me, I said, again, I'm leaning on the race car that is in the current generation of Lafayette's EV race car. They were very nice to let me set up in the garage today. As you may be able to hear it in the background, the shop's being used across the hall. The water jet is an excessively noisy piece of equipment, and I didn't want to be interrupting them and have to talk over that while talking to you. So a big shout out to Maria Romashenko, John Doyle, Ben Franco. I really want to thank you guys for taking the time to get the car back in presentable order, and this goes to the entire team too. Really want to thank you for giving me the time to record this for you guys today. As another treat, next week I'm going to have my first guest on the show. So I will have to, what's the word I'm looking for? Share the limelight with somebody else. I honestly don't know how I'm going to do it, but I will survive. Don't you worry. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show and opinions on the next show. I can be found on LinkedIn if you wish to reach me. This has been The Daily Grind, Episode 2, presented by Cutting Tool Engineering and broadcasting live from the Acopian Engineering Center here at Lafayette College, PA. I've been your host, Robert Layng, and hopefully the only grind is the coffee in your mug. One last thing, before I go, my family and I would like to wish all of you a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving this year. Please go eat up. Remember, it's not gluttony and it's not overeating again until next Monday. I wish you all a very wonderful holiday, and I thank you for watching and listening. Looking forward to next week. Bye-bye.